Hi, it's Sue. Thanks for joining me for today's Bible reading. I'm reading Joshua 1 through 4 from the World English Bible, brand new book. And I will put a link to the Bible Project overview for the book in the description. And I have a couple things to say about that Bible overview, but I'll leave that till another time. And also, I have a little tidbit to share at the end of after the reading um, about this magnificent Word of God, the magnificence of the Word of God. It's a little bit about how science displays the word. But I'll save that for last in case anyone just wants to get on, hear the word, and get back off. So, Joshua 1 1. Now, after the death of Moses, the servant of Yahweh, Yahweh spoke to Joshua the son of Nun, Moses' servant, saying, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now, therefore, arise and go across the Jordan, and all the people, you and all the people to the land which I am giving them, even to the children of Israel. I have given you every place that the sole of your foot will tread on, as I told Moses. From the wilderness and this Lebanon, this is so awkward sometimes. Let me start that sentence over. It says, from the wilderness and this Lebanon, even to the great river, the river Euphrates, all the land of the Hittites and to the great sea, toward the going down of the sun, shall be your border. So that was from the Great Sea, which is the Mediterranean, to the east, because the Mediterranean's on the western side of Israel. So from the Great Sea to the going down of the sun shall be your border. No man will be able to stand before you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will not fail you nor forsake you. Wow, this must have been so encouraging to him. Because, just like with us, they have that constant war going on, knowing what God said, but seeing what's going on in the natural. Joshua was going to have to take them in to fight giants, way, way bigger than them. And yet they knew what God had done before. They knew how he was with Moses. But still, the war, the fear, he had to fight the fear, be courageous. And I've read this so many years, like almost 40 years now, where it says be strong and courageous. But I think I understand it now. After walking with the Lord all these years, I understand it so much better. It's real to me now. So here's the Lord giving this word to Joshua. And, the Bible says faith comes by hearing and hearing from the word of God. And I think Joshua really needed to hear this word from God, to have it reinstated to him or restated to him personally from the Lord, so that he could be strong enough to go in there when he needed to be and lead these people. It's a new position for him. Wow, just wow. All right, so it says, I'm going to read that last little bit again because it's so powerful. And, reading it out loud, I definitely get a lot more out of it than when I used to just kind of read through it to myself. These parts are really emphasized to me now. No man will be able to stand before you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will not fail you nor forsake you. Be strong and courageous, for you shall cause the people to inherit the land which I swore to their fathers to give them. And he did. He was faithful to do it. Praise God. Verse 7. Only be strong and very courageous. Now, why do you have to be very courageous? Very courageous, because it's very scary, right? And I'm probably talking too much because I'm trying not to turn this into a Bible study, just a reading. Be careful to observe to do according to all the law which Moses my servant commanded you. Don't turn to the right or to the left, that you may have good success wherever you go. This book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate on it day and night, that you may observe to do according to all that is written in it. And see, that's what we're doing right now. We're putting this word in us and we're meditating on it so that we can do it. How are you going to do it if you don't know it, right? Okay, so that you may observe to do all that is written in it, for then you shall make your way prosperous, and then you shall have good success. Haven't I commanded you, be strong and courageous? Don't be afraid. Don't be dismayed, for Yahweh your God is with you wherever you go. Then Joshua commanded the officers of the people, saying, pass through the middle of the camp and command the people, saying, prepare food, for within 3 days you are to pass over this Jordan, to go in to possess the land which Yahweh your God gives you to possess it. Joshua spoke to the Reubenites and to the Gadites and to the half tribe of Manasseh, saying, remember the word which Moses, a servant of Yahweh, commanded you, saying, see, he's going back to what God just did to him, encouraging him and building him up. Now he's doing that with the tribal leaders. Yahweh your God gives you rest and will give you this land. Your wives and your little ones and your livestock shall live in the land which Moses gave you beyond the Jordan. But you shall pass over before your brothers armed, all the mighty men of valor. and shall help them until Yahweh has given your brothers rest as he has given you, and they have also possessed the land which Yahweh your God gives them. See, that was, remember, there were certain tribes that wanted to stay on the east side. They said, look, this is a good land. Let us just set up our lives here and not go over. And they had told him, asked God, and God said, that's fine if you're going to go over and help them defeat the inhabitants of the promised land, and then you can come back over here and live. So that's what he's doing. He's reiterating that agreement. So until Yahweh has given your brothers rest as he has given you, and then they have possessed the land which Yahweh your God gives them, then you shall return to the land of your possession and possess it, which Moses, the servant of Yahweh, gave you beyond the Jordan toward the sunrise. So it's east side of the Jordan. They answered Joshua, saying, all that you have commanded us we will do, and wherever you send us we will go. Just as we listened to Moses in all these things, so we will listen to you. Only may Yahweh your God be with you as he was with Moses. Whoever rebels against your commandment and doesn't listen to your words in all that you command him shall himself be put to death. Only be strong and courageous. Joshua the son of Nun secretly sent 2 men out of Shittim as spies, saying, go view the land, including Jericho. They went and came into the house of a prostitute whose name was Rahab, and slept there. The king of Jericho was told, behold, men of the children of Israel came here tonight to spy out the land. Jericho's king sent to Rahab, saying, bring out the men who have come to you and who have entered your house, for they have come to spy the land. The woman took the 2 men and hid them. Then she said, yes, the men came to me, but I didn't know where they came from. About the time of the shutting of the gate, when it was dark, the men went out. Where the men went, I don't know. Pursue them quickly, you may catch up with them. But she had brought them up to the roof and hidden them under the stalks of flax which she had laid in order on the roof. The men pursued them along the way to the fords of the Jordan River. As soon as those who pursued them had gone out, they shut the gate. Before they had lain down, she came up to them on the roof. She said to the men, I know that Yahweh has given you the land, and that the fear of you has fallen upon us, and that all the inhabitants of the land melt away before you. For we have heard how Yahweh dried up the water of the Red Sea before you when you came out of Egypt, and what you did to the 2 kings of the Amorites who were beyond the Jordan, to Sihon and Og, whom you utterly destroyed. As soon as we heard it, our hearts melted, and there wasn't any more spirit in any man because of you. For Yahweh your God, he is God in heaven above and on earth beneath. Now therefore please swear to me by Yahweh, since I have dealt kindly with you, that you also will deal kindly with me in my father's house, and give me a true sign, and that you will save alive my father, my mother, my brothers, and my sisters, and all that they have, and will deliver our lives from death. The men said to her, our life for yours, if you don't talk about this business of ours, and it shall be, when Yahweh gives us the land, that we will deal kindly and truly with you. Then she let them down by the cord through the window, for her house was on the side of the wall, and she lived on the wall. She said to them, go to the mountain, lest the pursuers find you. Hide yourselves there 3 days until the pursuers have returned. Afterward you may go your way. The men said to her, we will be guiltless of this your oath with which you have made us to swear. Behold, when we come into the lamp, tie this line of scarlet thread in the window which you used to let us down. Gather to yourself into your house your father, your mother, your brothers, and all your father's household. It shall be that whoever goes out of the doors of your house into the street, his blood will be on his head, and we will be guiltless. Whoever is with you in the house, his blood will be on our head, if any hand is on him. But if you talk about this business of ours, then we shall be guiltless of the oath which you have made us to swear. She said, let it be as you have said. She sent them away, and they departed. Then she tied the scarlet line in the window. They went and came to the mountain and stayed 3 days until the pursuers had returned. The pursuers sought them all along the way, but didn't find them. Then the 2 men returned, descended from the mountain, crossed the river, and came to Joshua son of Nun. They told him all that had happened to them. They said to Joshua, truly, Yahweh has delivered all the land into our hands. Moreover, all the inhabitants of the land melt away before us. Joshua got up early in the morning, and they moved from Shittim and came to the Jordan, he and all the children of Israel. They camped there before they crossed over. After 3 days, the officers went through the middle of the camp, and they commanded the people, saying, when you see the ark of Yahweh, your God's covenant, and the priests of the Levites bearing it, then leave your place and follow it. Yet there shall be a space between you and it of about 1,000 cubits by measure. Don't come closer to it, that you may know the way by which you must go. for you have not passed this way before. Joshua said to the people, Sanctify yourselves, for tomorrow Yahweh will do wonders among you. Joshua spoke to the priests, saying, Take up the ark of the covenant and cross over before the people. They took up the ark of the covenant and went before the people. Yahweh said to Joshua, Today I will begin to magnify you in the sight of all Israel, that they may know that as I was with Moses, so I will be with you. You shall command the priests who bear the ark of the covenant, saying, When you come to the brink of the waters of the Jordan, you shall stand still in the Jordan. Excuse me. Joshua said to the children of Israel, Come here and hear the words of Yahweh your God. Joshua said, By this you will know that the living God is among you, and that he will without fail drive the Canaanite, and the Hittite, and the Hivite, and the Perizzite, and the Girgashite, and the Amorite, and the Jebusite out from before you. Behold, the ark of the covenant of the Lord of all the earth passes over before you into the Jordan. Now therefore take 12 men out of the tribes of Israel, for every tribe a man. It shall be that when the soles of the feet of the priests who bear the ark of Yahweh, the Lord of all the earth, rest in the waters of the Jordan, that the waters of the Jordan will be cut off. The waters that come down from above shall stand in one heap. When the people moved their tents to pass over the Jordan, the priests who bore the ark of the covenant being before the people, and when those who bore the ark had come to the Jordan, and to the feet of the priests who bore the ark had dipped in the edge of the water. I'm going to slow down for parts of this. For the Jordan overflows all its banks all time of the harvest. So this was the time that it overflows. It wasn't like down to a trickle. Isn't that just like God to do it at the most impossible moment? All right, so let me read that sentence again because it was a bit awkward and long. Let's see where it started. It says, when the people, this is verse 14, 14. When the people moved from their tents to pass over the Jordan, the priests who bore the ark of the covenant being before the people, and when those who bore the ark had come to the Jordan, and the feet of the priests who bore the ark had dipped in the edge of the water, for the Jordan overflows all its banks all the time of the harvest, the waters which came down from above stood and rose up in one heap a great way off. At Adam, the city that is beside Zerathon, and those that went down toward the sea of Arabah, even the salt sea, were wholly cut off. Wow. That was all one sentence. Then the people passed over near Jericho. The priests who bore the ark of Yahweh's covenant stood firm on dry ground in the middle of the Jordan, and all Israel crossed over on dry ground until the nation had passed completely over the Jordan. So they must have been so blown away. I'm sure they felt the presence of God during that moment and just in complete awe, like another zone when they crossed over. Over 1 million people. Amazing. Chapter 4, verse 1. When all the nation had completely crossed over the Jordan, Yahweh spoke to Joshua, saying, Take 12 men out of the people, a man out of every tribe, and command them, saying, Take from out of the middle of the Jordan, out of the place where the priest's feet stood firm, 12 stones, and carry them over with you, and lay them down in the place where you'll camp tonight. Then Joshua called the 12 men whom he had prepared of the children of Israel, a man out of every tribe. Joshua said to them, Cross before the ark of Yahweh your God into the middle of the Jordan, and each of you pick up a stone and put it on your shoulder, according to the number of the tribes of the children of Israel, that this may be a sign among you when your children ask in the future, saying, What do you mean by these stones? So they're making a memorial. And I try to notice these. I love the different memorial stones. I don't remember all of them, but I know Jacob did this. Like times when God would move. I think Abraham made some of this, but God would move there and they would put a stone for a memorial that this was the place where God spoke or did something in my life. I love it. So here they're making one with 12 stones, so that when your children ask you in the future, saying, What do you mean by these stones? Then you shall tell them, Because the waters of the Jordan were cut off before the ark of Yahweh's covenant. When it crossed over the Jordan, the waters of the Jordan were cut off. These stones shall be for a memorial to the children of Israel forever. The children of Israel did as Joshua commanded and took up 12 stones out of the middle of the Jordan, as Yahweh spoke to Joshua, according to the number of the tribes of the children of Israel. They carried them over with them to the place where they camped and laid them down there. Joshua set up 12 stones in the middle of the Jordan, in the place where the feet of the priests who bore the Ark of the Covenant stood, and they are there to this day. And I bet you they're still there. Those are the ones under the water. Or wherever, if the Jordans moved and changed path over these years, they could be out in the open. I bet they're still there. Verse 10. For the priests who bore the ark stood in the middle of the Jordan until everything was finished that Yahweh commanded Joshua to speak to the people, according to all that Moses commanded Joshua, and the people hurried and passed over. When all the people had completely crossed over, Yahweh's ark crossed over with the priests in the presence of the people. So I guess they kind of stood with the ark in the water until everyone passed by. That's interesting. Yahweh's ark crossed over with the priests in the presence of the people. The children of Reuben and the children of Gad and the half tribe of Manasseh crossed over armed before the children of Israel, as Moses spoke to them. About 40,000 men, ready and armed for war, passed over before Yahweh to battle to the plains of Jericho. On that day, Yahweh magnified Joshua in the sight of all Israel, and they feared him as they feared Moses all the days of his life. Yahweh spoke to Joshua, saying, Command the priests who bear the ark of the testimony that they come up out of the Jordan. Joshua therefore commanded the priests, saying, Come up out of the Jordan. When the priests who bore the ark of Yahweh's covenant had come up out of the middle of the Jordan, and the soles of the priests' feet had been lifted up to the dry ground, the waters of the Jordan returned to their place and went over all its banks as before. The people came up out of the Jordan on the 10th day of the first month and encamped in Gilgal on the east border of Jericho. Joshua set up those 12 stones which they took out of the Jordan in Gilgal. He spoke to the children of Israel, saying, When your children ask their fathers in time to come, saying, What do these stones mean? Then you shall let your children know, saying, Israel came over this Jordan on dry land. For Yahweh your God dried up the waters of the Jordan from before you, until you had crossed over, as Yahweh your God did to the Red Sea, which he dried up from before us, until we had crossed over, that all the peoples of the earth may know that Yahweh's hand is mighty, that you may fear Yahweh your God forever. And that's it for today's reading for Joshua 1 through 4 for March 11th. And by the way, today is on the Hebrew calendar, it's 14 Adar, A-D-A-R, 5783, and it is the celebration of Purim, which is the remembrance of when God used Esther, the queen, to save the people from annihilation. Okay, now I want to share some thoughts about some excerpts from this book that I'm reading. I love to find things that exemplify the Word of God and the magnificence of the Word of God. Now, I kind of know what I want to say, but I haven't written this down, and it's just a short thought. But I'm reading a book, I mentioned it before, by Timothy Alberino called Birthright, and it's quite extensive, but it's technical, and what I'm going to read is a little bit technical. It's showing how science affirms the Word of God, in this one way that science affirms the Word. And so let me tell you what he says here. He gets into Einstein and Stephen Hawking, and like I said, some technical scientific things, but it's not too difficult to understand. In Hebrews 1:3, it says that he upholds all things by the word of his power, or he upholds things by his powerful command. We know that God spoke the worlds into existence. Well, that sounds crazy or impossible, right? But not so. And especially in this era of science, they're proving that true. They're confirming the truth of the Word of God. So let me tell you what Timothy said about it. He's talking about how a spoken word comes from a modulated vibration of a voice. Okay, so vibrations. And he says, John's conception, that's the disciple John in the book of John, John's conception of the Word through whom the world was spoken into existence is surprisingly concordant with the leading candidate for the elusive theory of everything that Einstein was pursuing before his death. Now, Timothy uses big words, but some of it I'll interpret as I'm doing this. But he's saying that what John said was surprisingly concordant or in agreement with some things that Einstein said in this theory of everything. What Einstein was pursuing before his death, the theory of everything, or the unified field theory, is the holy grail of theoretical physics, the consummate description of the universe that elegantly binds the forces of nature which are strong nuclear, weak nuclear, electromagnetism, and gravity. Now um, I studied nuclear because I was a nuclear power radiation protection technician. But anyway, it says, so he's talking about theoretical physics. Where do we come from? What's the, they're digging down to like the smallest part of an atom they can dissect, so to speak, and just from the micro universe to the macro, right? And that's what theoretical physics is. They have theories for how things are put together. And so Einstein was pursuing this theory of everything, or unified field theory, and he's saying this is the holy grail of these physicists that are researching all this. So he's saying that if we discover, this is Stephen Hawking, if we discover a complete theory, wrote Stephen Hawking in A Brief History of Time, it would be the ultimate triumph of human reason, for then we should know the mind of God. When refined, Hawking's postulation is closer to the mark. The discovery of a unified field theory will reveal not the mind of God, but the Word of God. Among many postulations for a theory of everything, only one has withstood the fastidious scrutiny of physicists and mathematicians over the decades: string theory. In short, string theory posits that the universe, at its most fundamental level, is composed of vibrating filaments or strings. The way in which these strings vibrate determines the nature and action of elementary constituents of the material world. In other words, the way that those sounds are put together determine how things are. Sound holding together solid objects that aren't really solid, right? They're composed of this vibrating mass, I guess. That's not a very good way to say it. Subatomic particles. So this other quote, it says, in other words, the essence of matter can be likened to music. And then he goes on to say, he talks about how the universe has an elegance and harmony and an implicit order, like music put together. Music that has harmony and order, and he uses terms like symmetry and elegance. He's saying that's what's creative. The opposite, he says, he calls them the antipodes. The opposite of those words, discord, imbalance, chaos, ugliness, they don't create anything. They destroy, right? And he's saying, he talks about the difference between a shriek and a song, and that this elegance, this implicit order, is like music that's carefully tuned by a skillful hand. It's intentional. It's intentionally made that way. And it must be the result of an intelligent design or a conscious tuner. In other words, he says, the universe is resonating with the word of God, just as the psalmist wrote when he said, the heavens declare the glory of God, the skies proclaim the work of his hands. Day after day, they pour forth speech. Night after night, they reveal knowledge. They have no speech. They use no words. No sound is heard from them. Yet their voice goes out into all the earth, their words to the end of the world. And then this little last part, he talks about how Jesus, being the creator, being the word himself, it says, when the word became flesh and dwelt among us, he was a carpenter crafting works of wood with his hands, revealing to us the essence of his nature. The miracles he performed demonstrated that he had the power to mend and manipulate the architecture of matter, which he himself had designed. He was telling us who he was, telegraphing to the crowds that followed him, the Maker is walking in your midst. So in Hebrews, it says, again, it says, he upholds all things by the word of his power. So here, these scientific theories are saying that the what's the word I want to say? The essence of the universe is held together by these strings, these vibrating filaments or strings. It's held together by sound, the sound particles, just like the Bible says. So people think science and the Bible are opposed to each other. Not at all. Constantly, science in all its different disciplines is affirming and confirming the word of God every single day. You can find instances of that. Isn't that fabulous? I love it. So it's really inspirational toward reading the Bible, because sometimes we take it for granted or we just see it as any other book, and it's really not. It's really uh, quite unique, and I don't think there are enough descriptive words to embody the majesty of this beautiful word. So you do good by, getting into the word every day. If you've listened this far, I commend you for doing that too. And I hope you'll just continue to join me to get this word in our hearts and really see what God has here for us and learn more about him. Till next time, God bless you.